How do you do, my fellow Bromo sapiens? Much has been happening, much has been going on in the world. There seems to have been a tragedy after tragedy, all culminating now with the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Now, there is a plan for this video where I'm not going to go in depth about this topic because there is a lot going on with that whole subject, and I even attempted to make a video about it, but I realized that I just didn't like what I was talking about or how it was coming across. I didn't think I executed it well, to be honest with you. I have many thoughts on the subject, and if I really spoke candidly, I'd probably get nuked off this platform. There is also an elephant in the room when it comes to talking about firearms on this platform. It seems that there has been a trend of nefarious actors committing heinous acts of violence and then in some way, shape, or form referencing a popular YouTuber that has to do with firearms. For starters, I think those people are evil. If you go out and you commit murder, then you are obviously committing a great, heinous, evil act, and you should be put down like a dog. Secondly, I think it would have to go without saying that anyone in their right mind knows that you can't, of course, control people out there, and thinking that you can makes you probably an idiot. Evil people are going to do evil things. You know, tools themselves are not intrinsically evil. You know, when you talk about the firearms subject, people will say there is a gun problem. There has never been a gun problem, but there has always been a people problem since the dawn of time. Both Cain and David used a rock to kill someone, but in a certain setting, the stone can either be used for good or for evil. And things can be applied to that of all different nature. If you look at a car, you can use a vehicle to deliver life-saving aid to someone, or you can use it to commit a DUI and take out a family of 3. So there's always been a human problem. Now, I know it's a little bit of a heavy intro, but there is much to talk about in this video, and I wanted to address those. You know, on the Charlie stuff, you know, as a quasi, and I say this very loosely, public figure, because to me, I am just some dude on the internet making silly YouTube videos. I even felt this weird pressure to like get up there and talk about it. I just feel like I couldn't find the right words to really capture how I was feeling. I think there's been many other people and personalities that have said what I thought and said it well. I worry though that during that time span, maybe you guys out there thought that I could have been being tone deaf to the whole thing, like just not talking about it, because I did publish a video after it happened. You know, it was just one of those things where it was in the pipe ready to go for that time slot. You know, in that video I didn't talk about it, and it was like a very pressing thing. So if you did feel that way, then I do apologize. That wasn't my intention. It just happened to be done before the assassination of Charlie Kirk. It was one of those things where even after it all went down, I felt like anything I could post or talk about on social media just like didn't matter whatsoever. I don't know, his assassination hit me in a different way. So I wanted to address it here, and then of course we can move on with the video. Now, I recently went to a shooting competition over the weekend.
Sup, retards? Out in Arizona by Jean. I'm at this thing called Only Cans. I'm trying to stay sharp, dude. I do all this YouTube tomfoolery. Every once in a while, you gotta go and check to make sure you're staying honed, staying after it. It's hot. I got the turban on. I'm praying to the east 3 times a day, but I'm not even Muslim. What's that about? And we're on the shooting and moving stage. Blue Jeans operator is here. My beloved.
Look at this guy.
I love playing hoverboard on the flat range. I love here hanging out with my boys.
In the sandbox.
Chit-chatting. Being chatty Cathy's while drills are being conducted. Because I know some zoomer with a 3D printer gonna take out my ass with a drone someday, but I'm gonna have a good time.
Why even work out and train? You're just gonna get killed by a drone.
Shut up, boy! I'm dealing with a hatchet.
And one thing that you quickly realize when you go and you put yourself under the timer is that you are not as good as you think you are. But there are also many things that I came to enjoy from that event because it was a training/shooting competition hosted by Independence Training. The event was called Only Cans. It is a clever tongue-in-cheek reference to the controversial site known as OnlyFans, the digital marketplace of prostitution.
We must stay focused, brothers.
How clever. Clever indeed. The idea of the event is you're running a suppressed carbine of some kind. I ended up running a 16-inch Geisley Super Duty with the Knights QDC PR, whatever, the quick detach can from Knights. It's like looking into the eternal abyss. If you stare too long into the void, Something stares back. You know, is this setup like really the most high end that I could probably get? No. Am I a little nostalgic for it? Yeah. I got it for a steal of a deal back in the day. It's a Geisley Super Duty I got for like 750 bucks. It's absolutely insane.
Why are you in a suit?
Why am I in a what?
Why are you in a suit?
Why am I in a suit? Don't worry about it. It's a future video, we'll get there. While running that, there was a lot of thoughts going through my head both during and after the event of just AR setups overall, training mindset and mentality. It really was like a good refresher, because one thing I didn't do during that course, I didn't bring Colton out to film. I didn't really try and film that much. I think I started, but then I was like, you know what? I'm just here to shoot. Like, I paid to be there. I just wanted to run and gun, and I ended up having a good time. I actually ended up winning the event. Funny enough, it's like the first competition I've actually ever won. I think there is really one reason why I won, and I barely beat the second guy. Shout out to Greg, he did great. And I think that's mainly because I was one of the youngest guys there. Like a lot of the guys there, God bless them, a little bit older gentlemen, a little bit past their prime of their youth. And I was able to make up any sort of missed shots or bad tactics on the stages with just being young and athletic.
Threw it! I threw it, dude!
Threw one off edge of it.
Too fast, retard. Right shoulder, left shoulder.
So I think that really helped, right? I have absolutely had my lunch eaten at some other competitions where I usually like fell somewhere in the middle. I did a good job, but from my experience at competitions, I'll usually have like an instance where I go to a stage and I crush like one stage, and then at another stage I will completely wet the bed, and it's like just takes me and puts me like smack dab in the middle. In the other stages I typically like do decent, you know, but it was a good refresher, and it got the wheels a turning. Gentlemen, you know what sucks in life is debt. Debt is not cool. Debt is not sexy. And having debt feels like this ever dark cloud looming over your life. I hate knowing when I have some sort of debt that I have to deal with. It bugs me. And I feel so relieved when I pay it off. But paying off debt can be hard. And that's where this video sponsor comes into play. PDS Debt. Whether you're struggling with credit cards, personal loans, or medical bills, PDS Debt is here to help. They have custom options to help you get out of debt. They go beyond the numbers to help understand your unique financial situation to help craft a good course of action. There's no minimum credit score required. They're here to help you save more, pay off your debt faster, and help put money back where it belongs. In your pocket. PDS Debt is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau and has thousands of 5-star reviews. And it holds 5-star ratings on Trustpilot. Why, you may ask? Because PDS Debt has helped hundreds of thousands of people get out of debt. I actually really do hate any sort of debt, and so if there's a service out there like PDS Debt that can help you squash that, then I think that's an awesome thing. Don't let debt keep running the show. You're 30 seconds away from being debt-free. Get your free assessment and find out the best options for you right now at pdsdebt.com/results. That's pdsdebt.com/results. Yet again, go check them out. pdsdebt.com/results.
You ever see a white man with a do-rag? You recording this? You ever see a white man with a do-rag? Get your ass up there, boy. Are you still recording this, slender man? Look at your long, tall, bean, 6'3" having ass. Huh? Looking up at me. I'm looking down at you, boy. Randy West Mag.
So when you're at those events, there's of course a whole bunch of other dudes running their rifles, and you get to see how different people are setting up their guns and their thought process behind it. Are they setting it up for this particular training event? Is this their go-to duty rifle, or are they trying out something new? For me, personally, I was running a gun that's technically was one of my old patrol rifles back in the day. This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine. This is my rifle, this is my gun, this is my fun, this is my fun. And then it's kind of been set up to be like a do-it-all rifle in a sense, right? And you kind of hear that term float around, a do-it-all rifle. What does that kind of mean? Well, it's kind of in the name, it's a do-it-all rifle. A lot of guys will set up their ARs for a scenario. And typically a lot of gun guys will have multiple ARs for the hypothetical scenario they may find themselves in. The problem is that real life is not a Call of Duty match where you can change your loadout on the fly. If you get dropped into a situation that is the gun you got until you get out of the situation. Like that's it, dude. You can try and bring some other stuff in theory, but it's gonna probably not be the case. The do-it-all rifle is actually a concept that I don't hate, because really with ARs and the gun guy, they get hyper-focused on very specific scenarios, right? Like you build out a short CQB gun, and you're gonna be clearing your house, John Wick style, when people break in to steal your toaster. Or you're out in the deserts of Arizona by John, so you need a good recce rifle for all your reconnaissance that you're doing. Or maybe you're going a DMR route, but you're using 5.56, so you need a precision-built rifle, like some sort of Mark 12 setup. Whatever your flavor. There's a fine line, I think. Sometimes guys have the excuse of like, all right, I have a rifle for every situation. And trust me, I get it, but I think if we're being honest with ourselves, you do it just because you think it's cool. And it is cool. I think guns are awesome, right? I think they're very cool pieces of technology. If you look at what they are truly used for, and the goal is violence, right? It's interesting to think about them in that sense where the entire idea behind a firearm is delivering a projectile. And then of course over time, these firearms have gotten better and better and better. Like you go wind back the clock, you got these dudes with like hand cannons, a literal stick and then a metal tube, like a little cannon at the end in like the 1300s. And then we fast forward now, you have like the American citizen armed with this crazy AR setup, and the whole goal now is putting a projectile as accurately as possible over a certain distance. You know, essentially the idea is warfare. Like all of warfare throughout human history was poking holes in people. Hasn't changed. War never changes. Hasn't really changed, right?
All right, time to go over some tactical ebonics, okay? Hey, so when we're getting on that gun and snapping it into position, what you're gonna notice, okay, is kinetically speaking.
Now, I think there is the idea where guys can overcomplicate things. They get too hyper-focused on certain aspects of the AR-15, and I think there's also a lot to learn when you get into the AR-15 game. I think there is a comfy reassurance, though, when it does come to the AR-15 of just how good they can be, and chances are you're probably not as good as your AR-15 is. I think as gun guys, a common trend I see is a hyper-fixation on the weapon itself, when in reality, in those settings, the weapon is such a small fraction of what's going on. Yes, it matters a bunch, but for the amount of time that you'll be spending on so many other things that would go into keeping yourself alive or keeping yourself secure, or depending on what job you're doing, whether you're military, law enforcement, security, or just a concerned citizen, the actual firearm, like the amount of time you would spend using a firearm is technically very low. You could be a cop out on the streets, right? You get into one shooting and it could be over in like a fraction of a second, but you spent years carrying that thing around your patrol car.
Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! Shots fired! You know. I'm hit! What? I'm in the car! I was shot through the car!
He's using a pistol in that one, but you can see how quickly his acorn gunfight gets over. Dishonored for life. Now, of course, there's a reason for this, right? I mean, firearms themselves are intrinsically interesting. They are a thing you can just buy outright, but the other things that you can't necessarily just buy aren't as sexy and require a lot of hard work. For instance, your physicality. You can't swipe a credit card and be a much more physically capable person. That takes a lot of dedication and work. It's work you have to do when no one's watching. And honestly, it sucks, right? It's like, would you rather go and work out and be a more athletic person, or all your bros are online playing Helldivers? You just got off work, dude. You're tired. You don't want to go to the gym. You got your buddies hitting you up. Hey, we're dropping in on the Terminids. Like, we're going to tear them up. I get it. But if you're a gun guy and you want to be a better shooter, then a lot of it does boil down to athleticism. You can go a lot of places if you have a base level of athleticism. You're also going to have an overall just better life. Like say if you're watching this video and you're a big gun guy, you know, you spend a lot of time thinking about this stuff, chewing it over, maybe you just enjoy perusing it a bit. Chances are, you know, you're only gonna go to the range so often. The rest of that time, you have to exist. You have to exist in your human body. You don't have Neuralink yet to get linked into the dystopian matrix. And I will say physicality is another fraction of it. It's like a baseline to entry, where it's like you're expected to be physically fit so you can do all these complex tasks that go with some of these jobs. Like for instance, if you're doing military or law enforcement or security things, you have other jobs and responsibilities, right? Like you're expected to have good weapons handling and be proficient with your weapon. You're expected to be in as good a physical shape as possible. I know with the law enforcement side, you see a lot of fat cops like just chowing down donuts. There's something about the uniform. You put that uniform on, you're gonna want a donut. And then maybe like the security world, maybe the standards aren't as high, but things still can go down. Like look at the South African footage where that one driver had to like maneuver around as a car full of dudes with AKs were trying to get in. Like there could be some very sketchy scenarios that happen. So you gotta be on top of your game. Like don't look past those guys that do like the ATM money transfer stuff. They get into some hairy stuff, man. You guys be safe. And even if you're just a concerned citizen, having the physicality to handle a threat is very important. A pen pal buddy of mine in Colorado, he was the dude that went downstairs and smoked a black bear that got into his home. That's crazy. I saw the footage, I didn't even realize it was him. But he responded to this thing in his house as a shirtless dude with 11.5 AR and dispatched a bear in his home. To be fair, the bear charged him. It sucks that you have to kill one of God's creations, but sometimes if you're gonna get mauled to death by a bear, you gotta do what you gotta do. Turns out an AR-15 is good at taking out bears too. Now, I know in some instances I'm kind of preaching at the choir, but these are some thoughts that kind of surfaced back up after going to this event, right? I know a lot of times here on the channel, we kind of go over some more niche stuff, like some more particular firearms that typically aren't the AR-15. Well, I guess most of the time we do that, really. There was this interesting experience I had when I was out there, where after running so many weird guns over the years doing this, getting back to an AR-15 baseline feels so good. Like I'm reminded just how solid the platform is and borderline like unbeatable in most cases. Like for instance, like say wherever you live, say you live in suburbia, right? And like the Russians start parachuting out of the sky. It's like chances are your sight line is going to be 100 to 300 yards depending on where you go or in your area. Right, in the Arizona desert, our sight lines are massive, but it's not like I'm trying to be out there defending some BFE hill for some strategic value, right? It's like chances are you're going to be around where there's other things happening. Yet again, this is the hypothetical yap fest, but we're gonna push through. Now, funny thing I did at the event is, typically I wouldn't do this, but I was really just trying to test it out, was run the specific YouTube compliant enhanced magazines. And I found that it was actually doing pretty well overall. Like I would think that, you know, it wouldn't be that common to see, but I've actually seen a lot of high-speed guys like Delta Force operators overseas running, you know, the YouTube enhanced compliant mags. I hate it here, dude. I hate it here. I want off this prison. I hate it here. This zoo, this prison, this reality, whatever you want to call it. I can't stand it any longer. Now, one thing that did come out of this event was jogging my brain about how I would set up my AR-15 better, in particular for overall use. I think where it's at right now, it's sitting pretty solid. One thing I was playing with was the idea of even going with a shorter barrel, because right now it's like a 16-inch setup, and then you got the can on there, so it kind of runs a little bit longer. And you could feel it when you're trying to work around barricades and you're being forced to be snug up to something. So there is definitely some merits, and right, this is just like a training environment. Now the reason I was thinking shorter, and I typically don't mind running a longer AR because ballistically they do perform better, but there is certain points I think where I would realistically be engaging people. There has been the trend that I have gone to other like carbine courses where, you know, the idea is you're taking like an AR build and you're pushing it out to like not just 200, 300 yards, but out to 1,000 yards. And you have to do all this math and all this quick math to go into it. To me, with my philosophy, and I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, it's just something that I think about, I'm trying to go off realistically where I would want to engage a bad guy. And in theory, you know, it's like if you can dispatch a threat at 1,000 yards, great. realistically, knowing my skill set, I'm probably not that good and would have to train a lot to get there to even have like a first round impact. And so it's pretty hard. So realistically, I'm trying to dominate a space between, 1 to 300 yards. So really, a shorter gun isn't that big of a deal. It kind of comes into, barrel length does come into play when you have that bleed off at certain distances of like foot-pound per impact. So that kind of does come into it. I will say the optics package I had set up was pretty advantageous. I think it'd always be better. I was using like a Vortex Viper. I want to show you the greatest LPVO throw lever you've ever seen. A hose clamp. Observe the never-ending untapped potential of my brilliance. All these companies want to charge you $1 gabillion for the LPV throw lever when a 30mm hose clamp exists. And the thing's a pretty simple optic, all things considered. Like there's not even like the Christmas tree setup within the reticle. I unironically made a Hell Let Loose sniping reference because on one of the stages they had a moving target going left to right at 3 miles per hour. And it reminded me of playing Hell Let Loose when you're trying to lead your targets when you're sniping. They were doing some fun methods of either tracking it or ambushing it. But even that, it's like trying to hit a moving target at certain distances that you may not know, so you're trying to figure out your hold. Very fun, I gotta give them a shout out to that. That makes shooting a lot more fun when you're having to try and time that out. Like the 16-inch setup that I had definitely didn't do bad at all. Like it actually did very well, all things considered. But it was one of those things I was playing with. Now on top of the LPVO, I do have an Aimpoint T2, and part of my thinking is that the LPVO is kind of like undeniable by now. It's just such a good advantage to have magnification on your rifle. And I am also someone that has bad eyes. Like I was seeing some guys out there running red dot magnifier combos. Even I think my buddy Blue Jean, he was running a Crink. God bless him.
What it's like to be the only AK guy at the carbine course.
Bro's running a Crink. We're gonna be shooting out to 500 yards. A PSA Crink at that.
Yeah.
In 5.56.
The crank is what I like to call it. The crank. The dumbest gun you could possibly buy for home and self-defense against the tyrannical clankers that want to kill you.
Holy he said clanker.
But he was running like a red dot magnifier combo too. And I could tell they had a little bit more of a hard time trying to hit targets out to distance just due to the nature of that optic setup. So in my mind, it was like, okay, when I'm setting up this rifle, I want to have the option of magnification, and then I want to have the option of a red dot because I do like a red dot. I think optics are getting very good, and they'll probably even continue to get better as things develop, like whether LPVO is getting more condensed down, still having great magnification, lighter footprint, all that stuff. But the idea is like you can dominate with a magnified optic, and then you can also shoot quickly with a red dot. And then there's also the benefits of if you're using night vision, you can passively aim through your nods into that red dot. And in theory, if there's like a EMP, right, your electronics go down, your LPVO you can still use if there's no battery in it. All right, it's a magnified optic. You're gonna be okay. Like a fun thing about this event is a little bit more on the tactical orientation side of things, where it's like the idea is you're using more of a duty rifle. Is the vibe I got. It's kind of like everyone had a very realistic setup, because typically now people will have white lights and IR lasers and then some sort of decent optics package. I've been to like events, like competitions, where you see guys trying to game it a little bit, where they have a rifle that's very lightweight, it's slicked out, no flashlight, no IR laser, just a simple optic on there, and they're just there to play the game. And I think that's totally fine, right? I think there's divisions for that. I think there is reasons for that. And I think it could be a fun way to try and experience a match. I go buck wild with it. That being said, I'm one of those people that likes to try and kind of like kill two birds, one stone, where it's like, okay, you got this setup. How are you going to run this setup in all these different little weird stages, right? Like in some stages at some of these events, you may be crawling through these weird little setups or in tight conditions, and you try and have to maneuver this optic package that you have on your gun that may be longer than you want at that moment. So it's all fun stuff that I like, because I'm a little bit more of the nerdy training side of things. I think you can still go buck wild and game it a little bit, depending on your division, of course. What was I talking about? What's going on, dude? Bros is over here yapping. Oh, gamer stuff. One thing I'm reminded of when it comes to like doing shooting stuff is a mindset aspect to it. So when you go out and you push yourself hard under the timer, under these conditions, people are watching, you feel a bit of pressure, and you start missing your shots. You start throwing them, you start messing up. Sometimes people have the tendency to get a little bit frazzled. And when I say people, even myself, I'm not innocent of this, where you know you could perform better, and so you start getting in your own head. One thing you gotta do is not that. You gotta just roll with the flow. And it's like, it's funny to think about too, because even, you gotta do this like even in reality. Like if you're getting shot at, you kinda gotta be like, je ne sais quoi. You gotta be very laissez-faire, where you just can't be getting in like stressed out about this. You just gotta maybe accept the fact like yeah, I'm probably gonna die, but I'm gonna look cool doing it. You know, you're not gonna be stressing out. One thing I do hate to see when people are training is failure to like really finish a drill when things are going bad. I didn't see too much of that, you know, not trying to call out anybody at this event, but like in general, where it's like you may have a buddy that, you know, say he starts to drill and it doesn't go well and he just like kind of gives up and it's like, hey dude, timer's still going. You better finish. Because it's just that mindset of like, you're gonna get it done no matter what, even if things are not going your way. And it's kind of like a mindset thing, right? It's like you may not be the most physically dominant, you may not be the best shooter, but if you have a good mindset, you're probably gonna go pretty far in life, generally speaking too. There is so much fun stuff about the AR-15 too, where it's like the nuances of it compared to like running an AK. For instance, I was making sure my gun was staying very lubed, where my buddy Nick, Blue Jean operator, was running his crank and he's like, I don't think I've put an ounce of lube in this thing the entire time. And we're running these things suppressed, right? They're getting extra gassy, extra build up in the gun, and he's just having a great time. I think overall I had a really good time. It felt good to get out and not just train, but go to a class and do some training, because it's good to have like a little bit more structure. Like where I live, you know, this depends a little bit more on your situation. I know in some states, there's not as much open land to go out and train and stretch out your legs on. I know some guys have the unfortunate reality of like being stuck to just an indoor range at like 25 yards. You know, it's great for a pistol training, but really suboptimal for doing rifle training. It feels good though to get out and get to a class where you can actually do some training and have some really good squared away guys teach you stuff. I was definitely picking up a lot of tips and doing things that were improvable. For instance, during the competition, they did something cool where we all ran the competition, you know, it was a few stages, and the class kind of shrunk down by day 2. And then after that, they had us go through all the stages again and like improve what we did wrong, which I think was awesome. And then we ended up doing way better on our times as like an aggregate. So just doing that felt great. And if I could encourage you, it would be to get out to a good class setting and get that done, where you can really test out your skills and all of your stuff, because you may have this perception of what may work well, but then trying it out, you may think like, oh, this isn't working well. You're in a very sterile situation, right? You're on the flat range, shooting at either stationary or, in my nice case, a moving target, and you get to realize where your kit's falling short. Now, for instance, things that I did wrong in the match was just not mastering the basics. It's not sexy because it's not like some high-end course that you're buying, you know, to learn this fancy skill, but like the basics of just good platform building for shooting are things that I messed up on. I would say probably at like every stage, because in my brain I'm trying to like go as fast as humanly possible and cut corners, but by doing that, it makes my time longer. Like for instance, on one of the stages, I probably could have had a better like kneeling platform to get more accurate shots, like a quick double tap on steel. On another stage, I was doing things like not even canting my rifle a certain way, where I could have canted it a different way and got shots off way quicker just by a different shooting position. And then on another stage, when you're shooting out a little bit further, I wasn't getting as good of an accurate base for even that. So just mastering the simple basics is gonna take you very far. There's not like this voodoo secret out there. If you look at high-speed military units, one thing all those guys say is just mastering the basics, the most simple stuff, just being masters of. And you know, it's kind of like a goal is to like mirror that mindset where you want to master the most simple things so you can just do it over and over and over again without even thinking about it.
Make ready!
Is this optimal in the CQ beat?
Tell me you can't hold down a hallway. You can't hold down a hallway with a 16-inch rifle, dude. I will say this video kind of feels like a Jerry Maguire, like I'm preaching to the choir kind of thing, and I didn't even mean for that to rhyme, but it kind of works. But it was one of those things I was thinking about. I had a lot of fun getting out there. It kind of reinvigorated this excitement for running a good, well-built AR-15 setup. I know that on the channel, we don't really go over the AR-15 that much, mainly because everyone has some sort of setup really dialed in, whether they're going for like a retro build, a clone build, or just the most modern tech that they can. I think all of those are A-okay, right? At the end of the day, it's still slinging some hot lead, cooking very fast. It was definitely a good reminder of that, and it felt good to get out and do some good training and run and gun under the supervision of good instructors at that. So, as usual, I got nothing else. Godspeed.
I'll be outside.